Oh my God. Hey, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. Hold on. Let me get this camera together. There you go. I'm a Gemini and I do not have good luck with technology. I do not. So I really think somebody be messing with my energy because what I'm supposed to be mastering, the master of technology. Anyway, oh my God, y'all. So I did not know what I did not know what was going on astrologically. I know yesterday I had kind of a breakdown. I just got overwhelmed. So y'all, oh, I was telling y'all about this the other day. Then I had to leave. I'm gonna have to leave today too because I gotta go to a study group. But y'all know I did my DNA results, right? So if any of y'all, excuse me, have ever done that, y'all know um that they don't tell you exactly like they'll have the DNA percentage and they'll match you with people who have the most similar DNA as you throughout the population. And so it'll tell you like this is either your great aunt or you know or second cousin or some shit like that. So there were two ladies that came up on my dad's side. For those of you who don't know, my dad died in 2021. Um, and it said that one of them was like 13% DNA match and the other one was like 11%. It said both of these were possible aunts or nieces or cousins. I can't remember. So on there's something where you can message people that you match with or whatever. So I messaged both of them, both at different times, and I said, "Hi, I'm Louis' daughter. Are you related to him? Is that your nephew or uncle or whatever?" I said, and do y'all know neither one of them ladies wrote me back? Neither one. So I wasn't expecting that. It was weird. I did get messages from you. Did y'all know that there are men who literally cruise ancestry? Because I matched with some people, the DNA was like 1% or less than 1%, but instantly, as soon as I added a picture, I get messages like "hello." So the first one, I was like, let me just see what this is about. I said hello back, and he was like I didn't like the energy, and it was like two other people that wrote me just hi, hello, whatever. What I don't understand. And when I looked at our connection, it said we had no similar relatives or ancestors. So I don't know where the hell that DNA from is not enough to, I'm here specifically so I can find out about my ancestors. I'm not really trying to connect with family. So yeah, just heads up. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. But anyway, um to pre, to precede that, I've been feeling a lot of sexual energy lately, and that's so not me. Um, to the point where I've been watching corn. I did. I went through like a phase. Every time I do it, it's like I don't think about any type of activity for a while, and then I'll just crave it one day, and I'll just be like, "Oh my God, it's been 6 years." And so that's the only time I really think about it. But when I do think about it, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then yesterday, when I saw that my relatives didn't respond, I'm like, I felt like a sense of abandonment, and I couldn't understand why. I'm like, why the hell do I care if these ladies write me back or not? I don't even know them. Like, um, So I was sitting and I was smoking, and I just thought about it like my dad energy comes around me a lot, and I did not have the best relationship with my dad. Just to give y'all a quick backstory without turning it into a sob story. My dad was married already when I was born, and I'm not the daughter of his wife. So you put two and two together. I had nothing to do with that. Um, I told y'all I thought I told you I don't even know if I kept the video up, but I did not want to do ancestry DNA at all. I got the test for my sister a couple. I think I did tell y'all a couple years ago, and lately I just been thinking about this like with FBA's Foundational Black Americans, and I've been thinking about Israel and all that stuff, and how you got to literally get government approval if you live in the state of Israel to test your DNA. And I was like, man, that's weird. I'm like, man, let me go ahead and utilize my, liberties, and let me just see if I can connect with my ancestors, because anytime I've got psychic readings, I've always like wanted to know like who are my ancestors, who are my guides. Um and I don't really get a response. One psychic, she was very accurate. She said, you have guides, but they're not human. They're not like of this world. I don't think they've ever incarnated here. They've ever incarnated on Earth, but they're around you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've always felt like I was like some type of fucking alien. I know it's cool now, but no, I literally used to be like, I feel like an alien. Anyway, um, so I wanted to just bring up these topics because so all that's going on, the sexual energy, the feeling of abandonment, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I venerate my ancestors without even knowing um much about them, because I have deep southern black family members, and they didn't really keep track of stuff. Like I remember asking my dad, um so let me back up. I stopped talking to my dad. I hadn't spoken to him for like 6 years, and I just got the urge. I felt like he was going to pass soon. Like I just kept feeling like that. Keep this story in mind. Um, so I did some work and I got in contact with him. We had a nice conversation. We were talking about taking the motorhome and going down to Louisiana and meeting that side of the family, because I never met my dad's side of his family. I met his wife. I met um my brother and my sisters, who have a different mom. Their mom is a white German lady. Um, and I never really got like a good vibe from my sisters, my brother either. Like I never really talked to them. I never really felt connected to them. Even when my brother on my mom's side was murdered, he was 17. I think I was either 13. I think I was 13 going on 14. I think I had just turned 14. Yeah, I just turned 14. And he was murdered, unalived, whatever. Um so even when that happened, I wanted to be closer to my mom's sons, but I didn't really feel a connection to those siblings, even still. I always kind of felt like they didn't like me, or I always felt like it was some animosity. I was the youngest on my dad's side. I am the youngest, was whatever. But basically, I was the kid that would sit and wait because my dad was older. So my dad was 20 years older than my mom, at least. And so he was already retired by the time I could think about anything. So um by the time, like I remember waiting, I remember being introduced to my dad. Like I had to meet my dad. Like that's the ghetto shit ever. But yes, I had to meet my dad. I remember that. I was like four maybe. Maybe I knew him before then, but I literally remember my mom introducing me to that nigga like that. Anyway, because he used to take me for the weekends. Sometimes, and sometimes he would say he was coming, story of everybody who has a, story, whatever. I would sit and I would wait and he would never show up. And when certain things would happen, he would never show up until I went into the military. And my dad is an Air Force veteran. He also, I don't know if you watched any of my other videos, but I went into corrections as a correctional officer because of him. And I remember telling him when he asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I don't know why the fuck I said this, but I was like, I wanted to be a prison nurse. I don't know why I said it, but that's literally what happened. I literally grew up to be a prison nurse. So anyway, once he saw that I guess I wasn't a loser, which is what he expected me to be, I guess, because he knew my mom was on crack. I don't know, child. He started being a little bit more active and he had a little bit more time, and I kind of got to know him, but I really didn't know him like that. Like, I really had to search myself. Like, I don't know that man. I don't know anything about him. I know he could cook. I know he's from Louisiana. That's all I know. I know he was a veteran. And we when we connected, we just used to talk about that, really. I remember one time I was like, this motherfucker think I'm gay, like, because I wouldn't talk about boys or anything. So anyway, I was thinking about all that. I was thinking about the abandonment. How I remember my dad distinctively telling me, one day when I was over his house, he was like, "Yeah, this my house is your house." And I felt like he was saying it loud enough so his wife could hear. I don't know what the hell they had going on. She was in the back room, but and he was like, yeah, and he was like, "You see this box? You know, this everything that you need is in there," or something like that. I wasn't paying that shit no mind because I was young. I was like maybe 15 or something. I was still a teenager or something like that. Um, but when he died, I didn't hear anything about him leaving me anything. He wasn't responsible. He didn't take like he didn't leave a legacy. And I remember when I was talking to him after we reconnected, he was perfectly fine when we reconnected. Um, except yeah, he was perfectly fine. We made plans to get in the motorhome. We said we were going to travel. And I was forced by spirit at that time to make peace with my dad because of the animosity. I hadn't spoken to him for 6 years. I had a kid. He had no idea. In fact, um, I remember to this day why I cut him off. I was pregnant and I was living with my uncle, and he had this baby mom who I was trying to save up for an apartment. I was not ready to be a mother, and there was a situation where things was going to get physical with my uncle's girlfriend's friends, and I was pregnant, so I couldn't do that. So I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And I called my dad and I asked him. I didn't tell him I was pregnant, but I asked him. I remember vividly if I could come stay with him for a little bit. I'm working. I just need to save up enough money, for an apartment. It's not really safe for me here. And he said no. He said no. He said, your brother's here. My brother, who was like in his 40s at that time or late 30s, and his son. And I remember feeling so fucking abandoned because I already realized that I'm pregnant by somebody I don't want to be pregnant by, who got me fucking pregnant on purpose. And now, he's denying the responsibility. Like, and I always never wanted that to be me, never wanted to be a statistic. And I was 20 fucking 4, so I felt like I should have known better. Um, I had just came back from Afghanistan and I was, looking for new in my life. And anyway, yes, I ended up pregnant by somebody I barely knew, somebody that I did not even want to, see again. And then I'm asking my dad, I made a mistake, and he said no. And that reminded me at a time when I spent 30 days in jail for something that I did not do, for being a good person, being black. And I spent 30 days in jail. Um, One, because my mom was living in Colorado. I was arrested in Colorado. I was arrested in Pennsylvania, and I lived in New Jersey. So I couldn't get a bond. And when I finally did, I just knew my dad was going to pay it. The prosecutor was like, "How much do you think you can get?" I was like, "I don't know. My dad could probably give 1,500. My mom 500." They wouldn't let my mom do it because she was from out of state. But do y'all know my dad would not do it? This is the first time I ever had any police interaction. He would not bail me out. He told them no. And that also reminded me of the time when I was on my deathbed. My mom was in rehab in Florida and I was living with my grandma. And my grandma was a woman from deep south who has very minimal education, and I feel like she like has some type of autism or something that just went undiagnosed, because you know how it is. And she was born in 38, so she wasn't getting that taken care of. They just was like, oh, they touched. That's how they used to talk about, people who had psychological issues back in her day, especially in our community. So I literally was on the brink of death one day. My uncle walked in the house and he was like, I was like, I could not breathe, y'all. It felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I couldn't breathe. My uncle was like, take her to the hospital now. And when I got to she was like, I don't know, I don't have a car, I don't have a cab. My grandma did not drive. Um, we had to we got in a cab to the hospital, and I got admitted right away. And the doctor was like, I'm glad you brought her when you did, because if she would have went one more day, she would have died. My lungs was filled to the brim with fluid. I remember my mom couldn't come, and they didn't have any insurance on file for me. My mom couldn't come. She was in Florida in a rehab. And they called my dad, who I was getting child support for at this time, but he was also, I wasn't getting it. My mom was getting it. Y'all know she wasn't giving that shit to me. Um, and my insurance was supposed to be through him because remember he's a retired veteran at this point. Um, Child, do you know the people came in, the hospital people? I'm 10 years old, y'all. I'm 10. I will never forget this. The people from the hospital came in. They was like, "Yeah, do you know anything about insurance?" I'm like, "I don't know anything about insurance. I'm 10. What the fuck are you talking about?" First of all, I was in the hospital by myself. My grandma went home. And I was just struggling to breathe, fighting for my life in that damn hospital. And she said, "We called your dad, and he said he can't come, and he doesn't know anything about what's going on with the insurance, but that you should have it, and he doesn't know anything about anything." Okay, so I spent 5 days in the hospital, basically alone. My grandma came maybe one time while I was there. Anyway, and then I thought about, and this is all stuff that I had blocked out and I forgot about. Like I forgot that I literally almost died. And then I was called to think about my mom. She told me when I was born, um, I was in the NICU for 22 days. I had a brain infection, allegedly. I don't know. My mom is a liar. I don't know what the fuck to believe, and I'll tell you about that later. Um, but she said she called my dad, and he came, and she literally looked out and saw him, and he never came in. He never came into the hospital. And I'm in the NICU with a brain infection. So I thought about all that shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, why the fuck am I thinking about a connection? Why do I care about the connection for the. I was just trying to clarify. And another reason why I wanted to get in touch with them is because I vividly remember when on these visits with my dad, he would be like, here, talk to your grandmother. I mean, I never thought about this. Maybe he was talking about a grandmother on his dad's side, but even when I did my ancestry, there was no dad that came up for him. His mom came up, but there was nothing that came up for his dad. He never talked about his dad. He never talked about his dad. But he would be like, "Here, talk to your grandma." He would put me on the phone with this lady. And I remember one time he was like, "Yeah, she's your grandma is 90 or whatever, right?" And I remember being like maybe 10, 11, 12, maybe even like all the way up to 15, y'all. Tell me why the DNA ancestry says she died in 1991. So I'm like, who the fuck was I talking to all that time? If she died in 1991, I'm born in 89. That means she died when I was 3. So who was he having me talk to on the phone? So I was trying to get in touch with them to, try to get that figured out, and they didn't even respond. And I'm like, so and I'm thinking about all this stuff, and then I just blacked on my dad. Like I don't venerate him, but I remember at one point I did have him on the altar. I would light candles for him. I would pray for him every day, and send blessings and love when he first died. And there was this whole thing. It's another story I got to tell you about my narcissist mom, how she stole his picture. I asked her for the picture first when he first died. She had pictures of him, mind you, that she took of me and him at my basic training graduation, boot camp training graduation. Um, she told me no. Mind you, in the beginning of this, I told y'all that this man was married to somebody else. Like, you was never his wife. So why the fuck would you not let me have the pictures? Y'all never. She said no. So one day I went to her house. I guess she knew that I was just gonna fucking take them. Someone was like, just fucking take them. Tell me why the pictures wasn't on the wall. So like I asked her about. I said, Mom, where's my dad picture? She was like, I don't know. You must have took him. I was like, why the fuck would I take it and not just tell you? Like what? I was like, the last time I seen him, I asked you, could I have him, and you said no. She was like, well, I ain't seen him. One day I went over there. She wasn't there. Something was like, go in the chest. She had this chest in her closet that she kept. It had a lock on it. It was actually my chest from when I was in Afghanistan that she stole and never gave back. She did a lot of that type of like energetic vampire shit, stealing stuff of mine and then lying about it. Very weird. Um, and someone was like, go in the chest, go in the chest, go in the chest. I kept hearing it over and over and over again. I'm like, I don't want to go through this lady stuff and she not here. Like, I feel like that's disrespectful. And I just heard this energy saying, go in there, go in there. And I went in there, and why the fucking pictures was in there? Buried deep down. Child took them fucking pictures so fast. And it don't matter because she ended up stealing them back from me because I had to move in with her, and then she put me out because she was jealous and she wanted, and just, I told y'all about that in the previous video about how she is. So anyway, I would pray for him, and then, when I did have the picture, and then the picture got stolen again, and I was like, maybe that's a sign. He wasn't that great of a dad when he was here. He was neglectful. I cried. I had my heart broken by my dad before, So anyway, I just remember a lot of disappointment with him and absence. Uh, like I said, when I would have little concerts and stuff at school, he would never come. He would say he would come, he was coming, and he never would show up. But except for when I graduated, I was surprised. Him and his wife and his son, who is also my brother, came. They came, and that was nice. Anyway, yeah, so I just went off. I was sitting in the bathroom, I was smoking, and I'm like, why am I praying for you? Why am I doing all this, giving you my energy? And you gave me none of yours when you was here. You had the opportunity to show me that you love me. I'll be listening to readings, or sometimes I'll do my own reading and he'll pop up, and I'm like, you didn't want, and I know. Everybody, we all here on a spiritual journey. We can't hold grudges. But I just feel like after I became a parent, it got harder and harder for me to understand how somebody could abandon or neglect their kids. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around that. And I know what happens, but I like, what kind of man are you? You a pillar in the community, you You're retired corrections officer, you're a retired military person, you're a dedicated family man, and then you going out in the hood having unprotected sex with crackheads, getting them pregnant, and then just denying your responsibility. Like, I don't understand. You was well old enough to not have a slip of you. I think my dad was 40 when I was born. So anyway, and it's the generational curse. It's the same exact thing that happened with my dad. And that's exactly what I didn't want. As a matter of fact, I was a virgin up until I was 19. 18 actually. After I graduated high school, I distinctly remember that. And then there was a situation where a jealous ass friend who had 5 kids, a friend who had 5 kids by the time we were in the 10th grade. She had given birth 5 times. She gave one up for adoption. She put me in a situation that compromised what everybody who knew me knew. And they accused me of lying. I'm just like, you just told me you lost your virginity in the 7th grade. In the 7th grade, my brother had died the summer before he was murdered. My mom was a crackhead. The last thing I was thinking about in the 7th grade was a fucking boy and going all the way. But I didn't realize it at the time, but they were jealous because I was different. They were jealous because they were ran through by the time we got to high school. And so they would put me in situations that was unsafe. And unfortunately, one time, alcohol, she literally came to a party where I was with some other friends, and they literally carried me in the car and took me to a hotel. They said nothing happened, but I did go to the hospital after that, and the hospital said it didn't look like anything, but they had no way to tell. It was like an inconclusive test. And so then I wanted to take my power back, and I said, you know what, let me lose it on my terms. And some boy I knew, who was one of my other friends, relatives, or, play relatives. That's who was the first experience. But I was 18. And like right after that, I literally went to the military. I was old enough. So my point is, I was always a responsible person. And plus, I'm like a germaphobe, if anybody know me. And so I'm just like, even when I did become active, I was always safe. And my daughter dad literally lied and said he put protection on, pretended that he did, and never did. And then when I'm pregnant, he tried to sit up there and say, "Oh, you sure it's mine?" Because we met off a dating app, and it was never supposed to be serious. It was just supposed to be fun for me because I had just spent a year in Afghanistan. And right after I lost my virginity, I'm in Afghanistan. I could have died. I got to tell you about the PTSD that came along with that existential realization that, hey, your ass could check up out of here. You could literally get blown up. You are surrounded. You're not home. You are surrounded by motherfuckers who want to kill you. That can take a toll on you. And so I was just wanting to be happy and be alive and just not be goody two shoes and experience life. And I kind of went wild when I came back, but I was safe. And due to his negligence, I ended up pregnant. And he did not want to take responsibility. And so he going to get karma for that. But my point is, the cycle continued. What I didn't want, that's not what I wanted. But whatever. My daughter's dad has also never seen her, never had any interest in seeing her, even when she was on her deathbed. So the cycle continues, and I'm praying to God that the cycle stops with me, with these piece of shit men who just don't want to take care of their responsibility. And I'll tell y'all the story. My daughter's literally a miracle baby, because I'm candid on here. I'm open. I'm here to share. God want me to share. But there is a funny story. I don't know if I told it in the last video, because that video was super long. Y'all, I hope I never make another long video like that. But my daughter was literally hiding from the they were gonna take her out when she was still inside of me. You got to be careful for censoring. And I went under the anesthesia and everything, and I woke up and they were like, "You were still pregnant." So my daughter really is supposed to be here. First with her lying ass dad for how she got here. And then when I'm like, hell no, I'm not ready for kids. And I went to go and I made that decision. Hey, she wasn't ready to get up out of here. The doctor was like, I could not find it. He literally was like, I feel more comfortable doing it in a hospital setting, but it's very deep in there. Like it really wants, I'm like, okay, whatever. So, so yeah, so I'm going through all these emotions about that. And then, and I'm venting about, and then I literally thought about it. I'm like, I'm about to be 37 years old. I have a kid, but I've never actually been in a real healthy relationship. And normally, as a Gemini, I would just be like, well, nobody, and this is what I usually say. I'm like, I never met nobody that was good enough. I never met nobody that I just fell in love with. And, I never, but I thought about it like, I've never had a man that was good enough that asked me to even be their girlfriend. I'm 37. And I was like, God, what is wrong with me? I said, normally, this wouldn't bother me, but I don't have low self-esteem. I never have. I've always thought highly of myself. I don't What is the lesson that in particular need to learn before I'm blessed with a healthy, stable partner? I'm not even asking for a marriage at this point. I don't even know if I want to get married at this point. Cause like, what's the point? But as far as a companion, a partner, I literally have been doing everything myself since I left my mom's house at 17, and even before that. Cause I remember once I got my first job, she was like, "I'm not. Just so you know, I'm not responsible for anything with you. You old enough to work. I'm not buying you clothes. I'm not buying you this. I'm not buying you that." And so, ever since I was 15, I've been working. Ever since I was 17, I've been on my own. Um, And I'm like, why was I not worthy enough? Why, I don't want to be an old ass bride. If I do decide to get married, I want to have the option to say no. I want to have the option to say if I want to have kids with somebody, if I want to have another child. That time is running out. Why is it taking so long for me? Why me? I'm not ugly. I'm not hideous. Why can't I get love and a partner? And everything just hit me at once, from my dad to losing my brother. And I literally thought about it. I'm like, my brother, not even my mom, my brother loved me. He was literally the only person in the history of this world that I ever knew without a shadow of a doubt loved me unconditionally. Everybody else's love came with conditions. With my dad, it was meritorious. You making me look good. I can tell everybody my daughter's a nurse. I can tell everybody my daughter is a corrections officer. I could tell everybody my daughter just graduated at, you know, I can tell everybody all the good stuff you're doing. Because the one that I put all my eggs in the basket, the one who I was in the household with him and I raised him, his son, who he refused to let me live, who he used him as why he didn't want me to live with him, or I couldn't stay with him when I'm like 24 and, pregnant, and, I'm working this. And, and when my dad was on his deathbed, because I'm gonna tell you how, when we're gonna get there, but I'm gonna tell you, when he was on his deathbed, he was having the nurses call me. And one nurse even got spicy with me because I told her I couldn't stop. And this is during COVID, mind you. I told her I couldn't just drop what I was doing because I was in the middle of a contract. I was on a contract, so I couldn't come to New Jersey. I was in North Carolina. I couldn't come to New Jersey to be, at his side and be his advocate. I said, he has a wife who's still alive and who's there. He has a son who lives with him. He has grandkids who was living with him at the time when he told me I couldn't live with him. So why do I need to drop what I'm doing because I'm a nurse? And this bitch really tried. I really wish I could rewind the time. Because I'm a nurse. And I was telling her, I was like, I cannot believe you are fucking berating the grieving family of your patient. And I was supposed to call the board on her and do all this stuff, but My dad ended up dying, so and I ended up having to drop everything anyway. And I did drop everything. I dropped everything and I drove to New Jersey and I couldn't even see him. His wife and his son was saying that, he couldn't be seen because, he was mentally declining and COVID precautions. And so that's what I believed. And then to have her berate me because child, I was too incensed. I don't even know if that was the right word, but anyway, I was thinking about, how, my brother, that was the biggest, I will never forget my cousin who was like way older than me. She told me, she was like, that's the first time I ever experienced grief. I ever saw somebody grieve. This is the first time, that was the first time that I knew what grief was because you were grieving. I was grieving, y'all. I was so sad. And the reason I was telling my daughter all this when I was venting yesterday, and then I stopped myself mid center and I was like, because my daughter she a Virgo, y'all. She'll just sit there quietly and listen instead of telling me like, Mom, you're doing too much. I don't want to hear all this. I'm fucking 11. um, so I had to stop myself and I was like, she was like, I was like, I'm talking too much. She was like, well, I don't want to stop you and I don't want to be rude. And I'm like, no, please, because I do not want to be one of them parents. That is very irresponsible of me to lay my burdens on my child. I need to find some other way to vent. So I just sat in the car. We went to do some things and run some errands. And then she went in the house and I sat in the car and I smoked and I was sitting with this. And I'm going off still, feeling away about my dad, feeling away. And I had to, after my dad died, um, at the funeral, I feel like they were trying to make me feel welcome. But before I even went to New Jersey, I was talking to my daughter, to my sisters on the phone. One of them I didn't talk to, and I feel like she had some type of animosity towards me. She's one who used to literally watch everything that I post on all platforms that I had her on. Never comment, never like. She would just watch. And so I deleted and blocked her at one point because it's like, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? You're not even speaking. But the oldest one, the one I got two sisters whose mom is white, and then a brother who on my dad's side whose mom is married to my dad. So I remember when I met them. So I met them when I was like 11. My brother I knew, I had already met him because I had been going back and forth staying weekends with my dad every now and again. But the sisters, they lived in PA, and I remember the day I met them, and the day I met one of them had a lot of kids. One of them only had one son, and one of them had blue eyes and looked like, you know, she was white, and the other one, you could tell she looked more black, but you could still tell she was mixed. They both looked just like my dad, so one of them was tall. They were both tall, like me, and I was like, oh, okay. And this was after my brother. Wait, was my brother dead when I met them? No, my brother wasn't dead. Um, but after he died, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Especially, I thought I was, could gain some relatives, but after this, I looked at everything different, what I'm about to tell you. So when I met them, I didn't like the oldest one's attitude because it gave me that they were mad at me. Mind you, their mom wasn't married to my dad, but they were mad. They're like, yeah, dad wasn't really, he wasn't really involved in, the same old story that I had. So I didn't understand why the animosity. And then when he died, when he was in the hospital, and I was talking to the oldest one again, and the youngest one, I felt like she was more, you know, we had a lot to talk about, and she was, we were talking and stuff. And even the oldest one, her daughter, I really liked her. We were talking because we were literally like the same age. We're like 1 year apart. but I was her aunt. I'm her aunt. Um, and so I thought everything was cool. And then she told me that they were mad at me because they felt like they were poor and stuff, and my dad wasn't helping. And by the time their mom, who was a German immigrant who came here and only married my dad, and because of the U.S. citizenship, she, according to what they said out their own mouth, she didn't even like black people, but she did what she had to do to get here, and she treated them as such. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but they literally told me by the time they mom figured out after their divorce that she could get child support from my dad, she went down to the courthouse and they told her that I already had a claim. And if you know anything about child support, in most states, it works like you can have as many kids as you want to, but whoever comes first is who gets the most money, whoever puts the claim in first. And then the subsequent, I don't know if they told her that she couldn't get it at all or what, because when I was born they were already pretty old. I told you they must have been either almost grown or no, they were in their teens when I was born, probably maybe like 14 or 15. And so they're telling me this at 11 and I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? My mom was on crack. My dad didn't come to get me when I went to foster care. I spent 8 months in foster care and I got my ass whooped by those people. Okay? They called my dad and said, could I come stay with them? That's another time I forgot when he could straight up was like, no. He said no. And you know what he said? He blamed his wife. And later on, when I got older, I told you I used to go over there. It was just me and his wife. It was my birthday. He told me he wasn't giving me no birthday present because he pays child support, like a lot of these deadbeat ass black dudes. I pay child support, so I don't have to get you a birthday present. Not even considering or not giving a damn that I don't even see any of that money. My mom gets that money in Florida, where she's recovering, when she was recovering, or even when she did. My mom had 5 kids by 4 men, and none of them were involved in the kid's life. And that's, now y'all see why I was so devastated when I got pregnant the way I did, because that was not what I wanted. I never wanted kids when I was younger, because I just had so much trauma around growing up and around my family. I didn't want to bring a kid into this world. When everybody used to be like, oh, I want 3 kids, I used to be like, I don't want kids. So, I'm like, I had a hard ass life, and here I am thinking that, and I have a sister on my mom's side, but I'll make another series on her. She always been jealous of me. She always been trying to sabotage me secretly. And I found all this out, fake love, all that shit. Um, and we'll get into that. But she's gay and she's younger than me, but she's always been like masculine energy. And my mom was always kind of masculine. I was the first like feminine energy. I wouldn't even say that about I wouldn't even say my grandma was feminine. And so I'm kind of masculine too, and that's probably why. But anyway, I was happy to have sisters, especially older sisters, because I'm like, now I don't have to be the one to try to show my sister how to be a girl and how to be a woman. Now I can look up to y'all. And that wasn't the energy that I got. First of all, the oldest one had an attitude, and the second one, she was just indifferent. And so after, when he was in the hospital, I was giving them updates on my life because I told you I had blocked the older one. And that's probably why she was giving shade. I don't know, because you was already giving me shade. I thought we hit it off when I met her. I met up with them a couple of times. Me and my dad would go down to their house and spend some time with him, because he didn't live far from them. And I felt like as I got older, the oldest one, the younger one who I was cool with, she started having weird energy towards me. And like I said, looking at my stuff, and I blocked her. And then from there, I felt like I can feel energy, and I felt like there was animosity and tension there. So I left it alone. So when he was in the hospital, They were like, "Oh, I hope he don't." And I was like, "Yeah, I already knew he was gonna die. I told my mom. I wrote it in journals. I already made my peace with him. God forced me to make my peace, and I feel like, and that's why this is coming up with this Scorpio moon, y'all. Eighth house energy represents what? Inheritance, spiritual inheritance, and that ties into my gifts. We're gonna get into all that. Um, let me make a part two. I don't want this to be a super long video. Let me upload this, do some things, and I'll come back with part two.